we've got a gentleman by the name of Clinton Markwart, and he's a human fatigue specialist. And if you're having trouble sleeping or find yourself falling asleep on the job, or forget to turn your mic on like I did just a little while ago, depending on what you're doing, could be a risk to you and your employer. And Clinton is in town today to take part in a workshop with the Safety Services Newfoundland and Labrador. They're presenting a workshop today at the Hampton Inn. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Welcome to Newfoundland.
Thank you.
So, obviously, you deal with workplace injuries, I guess, as a result of fatigue. How do you know? Where do you start, and what will you tell these employers today? I guess who are coming to listen to your background, your expertise.
Right. Well, two main points I'm going to try and get across are, the first one is that you don't actually have to fall asleep to cause an accident or injury. I try and focus on the fatigue before it gets to that extent. So you can be fatigued and have an error of judgment to make the wrong decision that can then lead to an accident or an incident. So I try and intervene at that point to prevent it from happening, to prevent people from actually falling asleep and causing an accident. So that's one of the main points I'm going to try and get across. The other main point is, how do we manage it? It's out there, it's in the industry, especially out in Newfoundland with the offshore operations and all of the industries that are working out here. It's pervasive, it's out here. So you have to be able to manage it, acknowledge it, and then manage it.
Okay, we hear about pilots aren't allowed to fly beyond a certain amount of time. Truckers aren't supposed to drive more than however many hours. What other kinds of industries would be affected by this? I mean, obviously, I joked about forgetting to turn the mic on, one of the things that you would normally do, but obviously nobody was hurt by that. What other areas would you focus on? Would it be like a utility worker who had to climb a pole or whatever? What other kinds of...
At the moment, we're working on mostly on the heavy industry. So yeah, the utility companies. My work with the Transportation Safety Board involved railways, aviation, pipeline as well, and the larger marine vessels too.
So obviously in a province now where we have lots of projects going on at Long Harbour and at Bull Arm with the construction of oil rigs and fabrication facilities, more pervasive here where we have these types of industries that are growing.
That's correct. And as you grow, you have to be able to manage the fatigue as that's going on. A lot of companies grow so fast that it's a component that kind of gets forgotten until there is an injury. So along with safety services, we're trying to intervene and get them to look at it before it gets to that point.
Okay, we talked about and we joked about a little bit of coffee. When you came in the newsroom, first of all, we said, people I got to get my coffee to get myself going in the morning and have a coffee in the afternoon to keep myself, awake. Is coffee really the answer?
Well, for most people it is. If you're a 1 cup a day person, it's going to be a good strategic measure for preventing fatigue that you're expecting to happen, as well as fighting off fatigue that you might already be experiencing. If you're a 2, 3, 4 cup user, I call it, then it probably won't help. And in fact, if you drink a lot of coffee, you become addicted to it, at which point your brain has now adjusted to having that caffeine molecule in your brain. And if you don't have it in there, you actually become more tired or more fatigued. So caffeine can produce fatigue at the higher level of use.
Okay, coffee is just one thing. Obviously, that's not like anything that a doctor would recommend you do, but or yourself as a fatigue expert. But what would you recommend? I mean, aside from obviously getting more sleep and not working the extra 7-hour shift or a double shift if you're operating, say, a crane or a big dump truck or something where, by the end of that shift, you're going to be very tired and more prone to an accident.
Yes. So in my program, I look at 6 different risk factors for fatigue, ranging from acute sleep loss, so having a really bad night of sleep the night before, to circadian rhythm effects. So if people are working odd hours, irregular shifts, and we try and get companies to manage those risk factors to reduce the likelihood that fatigue will set in later on.
Have you ever linked that sort of explanation you just gave to an actual accident, that a person had worked nights one week and the next week he was on days and the next week nights, and then all of a sudden there was an accident?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, a lot of the investigations I did at the Transportation Safety Board involved looking at freight rail operations in Canada. And these poor guys, they don't have a schedule. They're essentially on call. So they call a system by phone, and it tells them vaguely when to expect the next train. And then they have to try and prepare and manage their sleep accordingly. Now, in this one case, the locomotive engineer had worked, I believe it was something like 18 different shifts across a 30-day period without any pattern whatsoever. So he was working days, nights, evenings. He had no idea, or his body had no idea what time of day it was anymore because of these circadian rhythm disruptions. And ultimately, it led to an accident.
What do you hope to achieve by your seminar today?
Well, in the very least, I'm hoping we get awareness out. Safety Services taking a great role through a number of seminars that they've been doing over the last 6 months. And at least we're going to raise awareness to the issue of fatigue and get people thinking about how to manage it and reduce workplace injuries and accidents.
Okay, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate you coming in. And the seminar is taking place today, put off by Safety Services at the Hampton Inn. It begins at 9 o'clock, and we're told that there are still some positions available there if companies want to come on down, or they can register by phone, I think, still.
Best for them to drop by.
Just to drop by the Hampton Inn. Okay, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
your
us
time.
on. Thank you.
Okay. Clint Marquardt is the fatigue specialist. He used to work for the Transportation Safety Board. He's in town today, Aiden, to speak to Safety Services and their conference today on fatigue risk management, staying safe and healthy using the latest human fatigue science. So interesting, and especially in this province now where we have so many, big projects going on and people are working, and you tend to hear about people who work the overtime shifts and have to drive, if you have to drive early in the morning to get to Long Harbour or to Bull Arm, that's adding another couple of hours to your day, and obviously, it has to be taken under consideration.